They say empires don't fall in a day, but what if I told you the Western Roman Empire, the greatest civilization of its time, effectively ended at the hands of a man whose own story is still cloaked in mystery? He wasn't an emperor. He wasn't even a Roman. Yet he rose through the cracks of a crumbling world and seized the most powerful city on earth, only to disappear from history without a body, a grave, or a clear legacy. This is the story of Odoacer, a barbarian king who outlived the empire, ruled as a Roman, and then faded into the shadows of time. Not defeated, not buried, just gone. To understand Odoacer's vanishing act, we have to start with the world he stepped into. A crumbling Rome that barely remembered what strength felt like. By the year 476 AD, the Western Roman Empire wasn't just fragile, it was dead on its feet. For decades, it had been ruled not by emperors, but by generals. Men like Stilicho, Ricimer, and Flavius Aetius, barbarian-born commanders pulling the strings behind puppet emperors. Rome's economy was collapsing, the army was filled with mercenaries, the borders were bleeding, and its emperors lasted an average of 2 years. Some reigned for months, others for days. Enter Odoacer. He wasn't Roman, but he knew how Rome worked, and more importantly, how it had failed. He was likely born around 433 AD, the son of Edeco, a chieftain of the Sciri tribe, and possibly connected to Attila the Hun's diplomatic circle. But Odoacer didn't inherit a throne. He earned his place through military command. He came to Italy as part of the foederati, non-Roman soldiers allowed to live within the empire in exchange for military service. Rome used them desperately, cheaply, and often with contempt. But by the mid-5th century, these foreign troops made up the majority of the Western army. Odoacer rose through these ranks, calculated, quiet, and watching. Then in 476, Rome made a fatal mistake. It refused to pay the troops what was promised, and that's all it took. Odoacer rallied the disgruntled foederati, marched on Ravenna, the western capital, and deposed Romulus Augustulus, the last Western Roman emperor. No epic battle, no civil war. Rome didn't die with fire, it died with a signature. But Odoacer didn't declare himself emperor. He did something no one expected. He sent the imperial regalia, the crown, the purple robe, the scepter, to Constantinople, to Emperor Zeno, and said, "We no longer need an emperor in the West. One emperor in the East is enough." In that moment, Rome ended, not with blood, but with diplomacy. Odoacer was appointed Patrician of Italy by Zeno, a title meant to imply he was a servant. But in reality, he ruled independently as King of Italy, the first to ever carry that title on Roman soil. And here's what's shocking. He governed well. For over 15 years, Odoacer did what many emperors failed to do. He kept the peace. He maintained Roman institutions, he respected the Senate, he allowed the church to flourish, and protected Christian interests. He reformed tax laws. He distributed land to his troops, but he also compensated Roman elites, preventing full-scale rebellion. In fact, Odoacer became so Roman, he began issuing coins that bore the face of the Eastern Emperor, even as he operated completely independently. He didn't just preserve Rome, he rebuilt its dignity, brick by brick, in the wake of its collapse. But behind this curtain of peace was a ruler growing increasingly autocratic. Yes, he allowed Roman institutions to exist, but only as long as they didn't challenge him. Yes, he paid off Roman landowners, but he still confiscated enormous estates and rewarded them to his Germanic warriors. Yes, he allowed religious freedom, but only under strict state control. He exiled or executed any senator who hinted at dissent. He installed his own men in critical positions. He began to rule, not as a servant of Constantinople, but as a monarch in his own right. And the East noticed. Emperor Zeno, who once accepted Odoacer as a useful compromise, now feared him. He saw Italy consolidating under a king who no longer bowed, who had stopped sending tribute, who refused to acknowledge orders, who might claim more. And so Zeno turned to another weapon, Theodoric, leader of the Ostrogoths. Theodoric was a wild card, fiercely intelligent, militarily gifted, and violently ambitious. Zeno offered him a deal. If you want land and power, take it from Odoacer. In 488 AD, Theodoric crossed into Italy with tens of thousands of Gothic warriors, and for 5 brutal years, the peninsula became a graveyard. Cities were besieged, farmlands were burned, thousands died. But Odoacer refused to fall. He defeated Theodoric in several key battles. He outlasted the sieges. He held the cities, especially Ravenna, behind its legendary marshes and walls. Even as Gothic reinforcements poured in, Odoacer held on, surviving longer than most thought possible. Eventually, both sides were exhausted, and in 493 AD, they agreed to peace. They would rule jointly, split power, rebuild together. They planned a celebration in Ravenna to seal the deal. Both courts attended, the old Roman nobles, the Gothic elite, the priests and generals. And then, betrayal. During the banquet, Theodoric pulled Odoacer aside. Historical accounts vary, but they all agree on the result. Theodoric stabbed Odoacer in cold blood, possibly during a toast. One account says he split him from collarbone to spine, another says he drove a sword into Odoacer's chest, and when he didn't die immediately, slashed his throat. Still another says that after the murder, Theodoric ordered Odoacer's entire family slaughtered. His brother, his allies, anyone who could claim his legacy. But this wasn't just an execution, it was a total erasure. Because Odoacer, Rome's final king, left no tomb, no monument, no marked grave. Some say Theodoric had him buried in secret to avoid martyrdom. Others say his body was dumped into the marshes. Still others believe he never died that day, that it was a decoy, that he escaped, shaved his head, fled into exile as a Christian monk. What's certain is this: Odoacer, the man who ended the Western Empire, ruled it for longer than any emperor in the final decades, and yet he's barely remembered. No cities named after him, no statues, not even a proper chronicle. He's a ghost that walked across the Roman stage and vanished before the curtain fell. So, who was Odoacer? A traitor, a reformer, a tyrant? The man who destroyed the empire? Or the one who kept it breathing just a little longer? He brought order to chaos, but punished his enemies mercilessly. He honored Rome's laws, but replaced its elite with warriors loyal to him. He ruled wisely, but let ambition consume diplomacy. He was both savior and usurper, barbarian and Roman, hero and villain. And then he was gone. No grave, no last words, just a blood-stained legend and an empire that vanished with him. Because maybe Rome didn't fall, maybe it was erased, along with the man who dared to sit on its last throne.